So welcome to another edition of the Clyde and Lomond podcast. Heritage podcast, I suppose, with myself, Paul Murdoch, and
myself, Robert Ryan.
And today we're going to talk about the Captianus, otherwise known as
the sugar boat.
The sugar boat out the Clyde. Have you ever seen that big, long, kind of upturned hull?
Yeah.
That's what it is, isn't it?
It is. And it's shifted a bit in the last kind of couple of years, right? I think Storm Eowyn, I think, which was January last year, I think that has shifted it. I remember the BBC had phoned me up to ask about it in my capacity as chairman of the Hillsborough Heritage Trust. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's still moving about on that sandbank. And we're going to just talk about the story of it, really. I mean, it was built in Denmark in 1946, and it basically traded all over the world. It sailed all over the world for about 20 years before it came adrift.
Interesting, quite a bit, almost the same age as the Waverley, if you think about it. It was 1947.
Right.
Yeah. But it became, I think the Greeks bought it in 1963, and it had plied its trade, as you say, all over the world during that time.
Yeah. And on the night, I think it was, will you tell me the exact date? Was it?
The exact date was the 27th of January 1974, and it's a date I've looked up a few times because I can remember as a pupil at Hermitage Academy in Hillsborough, we were in Miss McKerricher's English class in room 19, and we actually witnessed the boat listing gradually.
Right.
The following.
So he started off on the sandbank, then slowly tipped towards the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and actually what happened was they were come from East Africa with a big shipment of sugar for the Tate and Lyle factory.
Yeah, raw sugar, yeah.
And
Tate and Lyle factory was in Greenock at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was due to deliver that, and it got stormy, and they were trying to kind of set the engines on to try and get to a safer place, I think.
Correct. I think he was trying to, I think the captain, whose name was Theodorakis Ionis, quite a Greek sound, isn't it?
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah. And he thought he would try and get to the calmer waters of the Gairloch.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, but the boat wasn't powering up enough and started to drift. And instead of being under its own power, it was drifting in these dangerous conditions, and it hit the very taut anchor chain of the BP tanker British Light.
It should be like metal.
Well, huge. I mean, the links are yawn size. They're absolutely huge. And where the anchor chain was, the anchor chain to have been fairly slack, it could probably have brushed against the surface of the.
But it would have been taut under the pressure of the storm.
It was very taut. It was being held by its anchor, and that anchor chain was as tight as it was just the same as it hitting an iceberg or a rock.
Yeah, so basically cut through like a razor of the hull.
Yeah.
And basically started taking in water.
And the captain, Theodorakis Ionis. I love that name. No, it's Ionis. The Theodorakis Ionis, a very deep sounding. No, he recognised there was too much water coming in, and he tried to head the ship for the sandbank and the shallow waters there. Unfortunately, for all concerned, there was two kind of pilot ships there. One was a tug, which was called the Labrador, and the other a passenger vessel that was working in the Clyde at the time, the Rover.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw some old pictures of those. In fact, there is a video on YouTube that I done myself a while back about the Captianus. If you want to see some visuals, it'll hopefully tie in with this quite nicely.
Watching that, Paul, did you actually go onto the boat? Well, and let me tell you something. I had a friend who had a wee boat with an outboard. Yeah. And, well, it was his dad's. And I can tell you it was, in fact, it was Bruce Williams of Williams Brothers Brewery.
Right.
Bruce had this wee boat, and it was great. He had lots of friends. Yeah, 18, 19 years old. And we went out one day and we tied the wee boat up and we got onto the Captianus. And let me just say, it was hazardous for two reasons. One was the seaweed, and the other was the evidence of birds that had been there. It's the guano. Yeah, the guano. So I managed to lose a very good pair of Polaroid sunglasses as I went from the...
There must be something in that, because when we did the filming of that, we did the filming with a guy called Harvey.
Yeah.
He was a great photographer. We used his drone, and his drone was worth quite a lot of money, and it was flying back to the ship, and I think it was me. He said, "Hold out your hand, I'll land it on your hand," right? And of course, this thing with big propellers is coming down, and I was like, "I'll get a bit nervous." I went like that, just as it touched my hand, and it plopped right in the sea. It plopped right in the Clyde, and he, in an instant, dived over the boat and went right down into the water and grabbed it and come up, and we had to haul him in. Luckily, it was flat cam. And it was like, I was like, "What are you doing? It's only a thingy. You could have died there." You know, the guy who took us out of his boat was like, "What's going on?" You know, he was like, "Oh, panic stations." But Harvey just was wet, took his wet clothes off. And
yeah. So what do you think the charge would have been, Paul? Manslaughter?
To the Lomond, I just misadventure.
Misfleet. But, and did he get it working again? I really...
He died, and I said, the main thing, get the SD card out it.
Ah, right.
So we don't lose the footage. Selfishly. As long as you're all right, get the SD card out. And I think it was insured anyway, so I think it was insured for accidents. But anyway, so yeah, we've gone to working again. So maybe there's a slightly wee kind of cursey thing about it, you know, if you go too close to it.
Yeah.
We saw a seal that day, and of course a whole host of cormorants and things that use it as a resting place.
I remember, actually, in the years that followed it, there was a great wrangle between there was actually, I don't think it was ever established who were the owners, who were the insurers going to take responsibility, you know, and because that was never sorted out, there was great speculation about what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I know they talked about blowing it up at one stage, but that was, I think that was ruled out because of the effect on wildlife, and I mean, it would have been a big bang.
It's not that far from Ardmore Point, which is kind of nature area.
And I think the reason it's just stayed there is it's not a particular hazard to shipping. You know, it's in a very shallow part.
The good thing here, what his name was, is that he actually put it on a sandbank. He had the chance to do that, and kind of.
I mean, it's a miracle when you think about that in a storm that they go on all side and completely.
I was going to say, one of the main things to state is nobody died.
Yeah.
And in fact, the sailors were taken into local hills were peopled.
That's right.
And getting shelter.
Yeah.
And a bed for the night, stuff like that. So local people were quite kind to the crew.
25 of the crew were rescued on the Rover, which was the passenger ship.
Yes.
And the captain and 3 or 4 crew stayed on quite heroically, I suppose. Yes. But they eventually, the ship, it was at such an angle that they actually managed to jump onto the tug.
Okay.
Just the rubber almost. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, no, I think reading about what happened, I don't think there's any blame could really be attached to the captain.
No, it's just one of these accidents that happens. And in fact, there's been over 100 shipwrecks in the Clyde. And there's a map, I do a talk on that as well at some stage. I have them in the past. And there's a map that actually positions every single wreck. Yeah. And it's littered with wrecks. No, right from the Comet, obviously going down the Comet 2. Although that was taken ashore again. But there's loads of wrecks about.
And are any companies as well? Are some of them hazards to shipping? Or?
I don't know as much about that. I need to find. I think most of them are located and well known.
Right.
I think as far as the submarines go, I think 2 submarines were down in the gale. Right.
Oh, there was one.
Tragically,
there was one with quite a large loss of life in it. I think that was the early 20th century.
And I think there was over 80 people passed away, and some were dignitaries as well. I think were visiting.
Right. Okay.
So it was a bit of a disaster, maybe more reason one.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a different podcast with through.
That's right.
The different shipwrecks.
Do you know? I think I was thinking about it was what a part of the local vista, the local scenery. Is it? I mean, I don't suppose landmark is the right phrase.
It's become a landmark.
Yeah, people. It's not on land. That's not.
No, but and also local places have named themselves.
The Sugar Boat. That's quite a very. I thought that was a very clever name for a restaurant. Yeah, it was very and it's become part of local life. The Sugar Boat. That's just what we refer to it as.
Yeah.
But as I say, quite precarious now.
Yeah, tell us about your experience, because Robert's seen it firsthand. Basically, the day after it grounded, it was big news in the school. You're looking at the windy ad, so no work get done that day.
No work. Miss McCarrick did. She was a great teacher. She was an English teacher. She still lives in Dumbarton. I talk to her occasionally when we bump into each other. But she was a great teacher, and she was manfully or womanfully trying to keep the class focus on the lesson. And she says, "Oh, look, we'll just all watch this, because this is something you'll remember."
And you look pretty good view from there.
Yeah, I can't. Indeed, top floor of the school.
The old Hermitage Academy.
The old Hermitage, well, the medium Hermitage Academy. There was the oldest one in East Argyle Street. I was just too young to have been at that by about 5 years. And then there was the middle one, which people of my vintage and younger will remember.
So it'd be about I went to the old Vale Academy, middle Vale Academy.
Yeah.
Because there was one in Main Street before that. In fact, two.
Yeah.
One at Christie Park School was the Verb Academy at one time.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is about these historical events, I mean, I probably have forgotten most of the English lessons that I had at that time, but I certainly remembered the Cappuccianis and its fate.
And we don't know, just to kind of finish this off a little bit, we don't really know what will become of the Cappuccianis.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much breaking up now. I think it's become, over the years, it has been plundered by would-be salvage people. There will be fittings and
Fittings
that will be worth diving for. I think there's very little left other than the hull and some decking, which I'm told is in reasonable condition.
Yeah.
But I think last year that Storm Ulwin or whatever it was, I can never pronounce that. It was in January, and then it was noticed in the subsequent months that the ship now, instead of the kind of horizontal shape, it's now down at the one end and up at the other end.
Okay.
So I think
there'll be too many comments standing the ones down. Siphon it up. But and that is where you can see lots of bird life if you do go out to or near it in a small boat. It's actually an interesting thing to do. And there's also seals, grey seals and things about there as well. Well, listen, I think it's quite a nice part of the land, Mark. The scenery, because there's a bit of history to it and a story to it, and hopefully you found a bit more about that today.
What I can't actually believe is that's it's 52 years, more than 52 years ago. Long time it's been in the local vista.
So you'd only done before,
Well, I was. I'm just trying to work out. I was 14.
I'll be 13.
There we go. You had to get that in.
So I had to get that in one there because. Listen, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We'll put a link to the video which shows the Cappuccianis in all its glory. Well, certainly in the past and now. So until next time, bye for now.
Thank you.